Everyone in the Catholic Church celebrates Advent. Is that a fact or is that a fiction? Wrong. That's a fiction, actually. Everyone in the Catholic Church has a liturgical season that prepares for the celebration of Christmas. Is that a fact or is that a fiction? That's a fact. You see, we have to remember when we speak about the Catholic Church, we're not just speaking about the Roman Catholic Church. The Catholic Church is made up of 24 particular churches, and they can be grouped into 6 different liturgical families. Like you have the Byzantine family, the Byzantine Rite, you have the Antiochene Rite family, you have the Chaldean family or Rite, you have the Alexandrian family, and the Armenian family. And within those groups are the various particular churches that constitute the Roman Catholic Church. And each of those families or churches have their own way to prepare for Christmas. We in the West celebrate something called Advent. It's 4 Sundays before Christmas. That constitutes that season. But in the Byzantine family, they do something called Philip's fast or the Nativity fast, and that lasts 40 days. In the Alexandrian family, they do something called the Nativity fast. That lasts 43 days. The Armenian family has something called Hisnag, which in their language means 50. So that's 50 days of preparation. The Antiochene family, they do something called the Season of Announcements, which is 6 Sundays. And the Chaldean family does something called the Season of the Annunciations, which, like us, it consists of 4 weeks. Now, the interesting thing about these different rites, or these different, families, is the penitential aspect of their season. They're already longer than ours. You can see most all of them are longer than ours. And they also have typically and traditionally stricter rules, stricter ascetical rules. Like, for example, let's see here. So the Byzantine Catholic Church, the traditional rule, so remember the Byzantine, it's 40 days. Traditionally, it's no meat, dairy, or eggs on most weekdays, fish, wine, and oil on certain days. It's stricter from December 13th to December 24th, where there's no fish, and there can be wine and oil only on Saturdays and Sundays. The Alexandrian Church, their fast, let me get my notes here. Their fast is essentially a vegan fast. Remember, that's 43 days, essentially a vegan fast. Again, sometimes fish is permitted on selected days, but typically eggs, dairy, and animal fats are not allowed on most days. And many also limit meal frequency or postpone the first meal until the afternoon. Now, the big one, the big daddy for me, is the Armenian Rite. Again, that's 50 days. And it says fasting days usually require abstinence, again, from meat and other animal products, approaches a total fast or very limited intake. They have 2 different types of fast. They have, on their typical fast, is where it's like more of a vegan fast. And then on their other more stricter total fasting days, it's pretty much not much at all. Like not much at all. And they have within their rite, they have 3 times during that 50 days, meaning 3 weeks, 3 separate weeks, or 1 week 3 times in that 50 days where they fast for the whole week. And so how does that make you feel being in the Western church? Some of you are like, thank God I'm in the Roman Rite. But what I think that it points us to is the nature of the Advent season, or this liturgical season that prepares us and is meant to prepare us for Christmas. That, like, when you look at these other rites, what at least it makes me think of is like, wow, these people are serious. Man. And because how many people actually remember or think that Advent is actually a penitential season? Do people really get that or remember that or even know that? Oftentimes, you have to be reminded by a priest. Or maybe if you belong to a parish, maybe it's through bulletin announcements or something. By the way, this is a penitential season, and it goes right over our head. Okay, where are we going to go shopping for, today? How are we doing on that Christmas list? And we completely bypass. We're into more of the ho, ho, ho than the whoa, 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 right? And what I mean by woe is that woe is me, Lord, for I am a sinner. We jump right into the ho, ho, ho. And we got the Christmas music cranking, going to Christmas parties, and we completely forget that we are, or should be, preparing to celebrate one of the greatest events in world history. God entering into time, the eternal one, allowing himself to be measured by a body. Wow, that is a big deal. And that's why these other rites, now, mind you, these rites are allowed, when I mentioned them and what they undertake, those are the dietary, rules, if you will, but there are minimum requirements for that, okay? So the minimum requirements for most of them, except the Armenian rite, is that it's typically like a Wednesday, Friday fast, like we do in Lent, typically, all right? But we don't even associate that in Advent. And so anyway, but typically, we should be doing some kind of penance on Fridays. That holds for the Roman Church every Friday, okay? So anyway, but the point of it is that it seems like in the Western Church, in the Roman Rite, we can be a little soft in our approach to Advent. And so I think that we collectively need to up our game a little bit this Advent. We need to make Advent, we need to live a more purpose-filled Advent. We need to live it like it matters. And it does matter. And so let me just kind of review with you 3 things that I think that can maybe help us to live a more purpose-filled Advent. And they each begin with the letter R. The first one is very simple. Remember that Advent season is not the Christmas season. Okay, now you might be kind of like, well, that's kind of all right, whatever. But really remember it. Remind yourself of that daily. When you turn on the radio and you hear Christmas music playing, maybe turn it off. If you go into the store and you see all these Christmas decorations and, again, shopping and stuff like that, remind yourself, this is the Advent season. This is a season of preparation. It's not the Christmas season. And that can help you to hopefully practice the other things I'm going to tell you, which is the second one. This reminding yourself that it's the Advent season should then lead you to think this is a penitential season. And in a penitential season, we want to recognize what? Recognize that we are sinners. Yeah, We are sinners. And it's okay to tell yourself that. It doesn't mean you're a bad person if you say to yourself, I'm a sinner. It means that you've done, or I've done, bad things. Yeah, we do that. We are sinners. We make mistakes. We make choices that offend God and other people. Deal with it. Recognize it in humility because it's a fact. It's a fact. Don't try to blow it over, and don't try to evaluate yourself from the standpoint of the Hitler comparison. Meaning that, well, I haven't killed anybody. I'm not like Hitler. I'm a pretty good person. That's not the standard, people. That's not God's standard. That's not God's standard. God's standard is what he has revealed to us, the truth about himself and the moral life that he calls us to live. You heard about some of it in the second reading here. All right, I'm hoping that nobody engages in orgies, but, with that stuff goes the promiscuity and lust. All right, we have a pornography problem in America, okay? Maybe people listening or sitting in the pews had that problem too. Face it and deal with it, okay? Hopefully you are, if you have that struggle. What about drunkenness? It's a mortal sin if you purposely go out and get drunk. Some people think that getting drunk is not a sin. Oh, it is. If you intentionally go out to get hammered, that is a mortal sin, and you need to confess that. What about going to Mass? Do you go to Mass every Sunday? We're not the Lord isn't into just people going to Mass on Easter and Christmas only. He's not into that. And he's not into people just going to Mass sometimes. Well, I go to Mass a couple times a month. He's not into that either. The Lord is into everybody going to Mass every Sunday because that's part of his commandment. Keep holy the Sabbath day became keep holy the Lord's day. We owe it to God to worship him every Sunday. And if we willingly choose not to, we fall into mortal sin. Right? So, recognize that we are sinners. And recognize not just that we are sinners, but that we are sinners destined for judgment. Man, I'm really piling it on here, aren't I? Oh, man, come on, Father, give me a break. No, I'm not going to give you a break, okay? Because this is reality. We are going to be standing before the Lord one day. And, why did the Lord bring up Noah's ark today, in today's gospel? Why does the Lord speak about the days of Noah, right? Because what was the days of Noah about? People who were living for themselves, not paying attention to the Lord. And they were living for themselves, and they were committing all kinds of sins, offending God and all that. And the Lord tried to warn them, look, I'm going to come down to earth, and I'm going to judge the earth. Now, when we say judge, what does that mean? It doesn't mean the Lord is coming to give a beatdown. He's not intentionally trying to give people beatdowns. What he's doing is he's just judging. He's just trying to say, how has your behavior been? I'm going to evaluate your behavior. I kind of compare it to a parent-teacher conference. You remember, how many people of you have gone to a parent-teacher conference when you were a kid? And it's wow, that's judgment day, isn't it? Because you stand before the teacher, who's the authority, and she's evaluating your behavior before your parents, and it's either going to go up or down, right? And so if you get a negative report, you're in trouble, right? More or less. You've got to change your behavior. And that parent-teacher conference, by the way, is not meant to beat you down. It's meant to purify you in your behavior if you need it, so you can improve and do better. This is why the Lord judges. But there is an ultimate judgment, right? That we are all going to have to face. The Lord, if you look at in the Old Testament, The Lord will execute a divine judgment when he sees that his people need to be purified because their behavior has gotten out of control. That happened to Israel a lot. And, we're kind of, in this world today, our society is kind of ripe for that divine judgment to take place and purify us today as well. Let's just say it as it is, okay? But ultimately, we are all going to pass from time into eternity and stand before the Lord to give him an account of our life. He will come for us. He will come for us. We may not be around for the second coming, but the Lord will come individually for us and call us from this life, and we will stand before him. And are we going to be ready? Are we going to be ready to stand before him? The thrice holy God. Because in heaven, nothing impure or unclean can enter in. Are we going to be ready? This is why we have this season. This is why we have penitential seasons in the church, because it's meant to wake us up, to sober us up to the reality of things. And of course, when I speak about the sin and the judgment, I'm always doing it within the context of recognizing the mercy of God. So it's not just recognizing our sin and judgment, but recognizing God's mercy in conjunction with that, so that I have hope to run to Jesus so that he can forgive me of my sins and cleanse me. So remember, Advent's not Christmas. Recognize we are sinful people destined for judgment. Okay? And the last one is that should motivate us to renew our spiritual life, to take advantage of this time, as I just mentioned, to take advantage, like the Lord says, now is the time of mercy. Take advantage of it. What does he say in the diary? Take advantage of this day before the time of justice comes. What does that mean? It means the second coming, but at the same time, again, sometimes the Lord will allow the time of justice to come to us because that's ordered to his mercy. Sometimes God allows his justice to take over to correct us of our behavior because a father is the one who loves, or those whom God disciplines is whom he loves. Because God is always trying to correct our behavior. When God, practices, maybe might show us a little justice in this life, it's because he's trying to get us to wake up and to order our lives correctly so that we can be ready for that day when we have to give an account of our life. So brothers and sisters, remember, recognize, and renew. Do something, make this Advent season count. Live it with purpose. And that purpose is penitential. It's about conversion. So that conversion will not only make you ready to celebrate Christmas, but will make you ready to stand before the Son of Man when he comes. And so I will just say to, maybe take on some form of penitential practice. The traditional penitential practice is prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. It's similar to Lent. Figure something out, mortify yourself, pray more, go to the sacraments more, do something that shows that God matters in your life. Because he does matter. And so in that way, you will make this Advent season fruitful for you and transformative in your life so that you can experience the true joy, a deeper joy, hopefully a deeper peace in your life, which is why Jesus came in the first place. Amen.